Hey guys, what's good? I'm Andre and today I want to walk with you guys through the Chargepoint investor presentation that they had presented last time they reported earnings. I really think there are a few really great takeaways there. And yeah, before we jump in guys, I'm gonna plant one tree for every 20 likes this video gets. Help me out and we're gonna help the planet out as well. So let's jump right into the presentation and have a look at it guys. And before we jump in, the first thing that I want to mention here is obviously the fact that the market cycles are real, guys. Do not let a temporary market cycle that doesn't include a high conviction stock fool you into thinking that that's a shit stock. Now, this is why it's so important for you guys to look at the investor presentation. This is why it's so important for you guys to make sure that you make time to have a look at the financial, to make sure that you know what they presented last time they reported quarterly earnings, and just keep tabs on your investment, guys. Don't get into the mind frame of just investing in 100 companies and not really knowing what either of them do. So with that in mind, let's have a look at why I really think that Chargepoint is on a really great upward trajectory here, and we can look at some of these really important facts. Cool, so for the very first part here, I think it's very important for you to always read what the leadership at these companies that you're investing in are able to do, what's their knowledge, what's their background. That's very important, guys. Then on the right hand of the screen here, we can see the fact that obviously that Chargepoint is making up their revenue sources from 3 different sources. Of course, selling the charging stations themselves, selling subscription services for those stations in the forms of software, and this is very important, guys, and we're gonna touch base on it again in a few minutes here, and then selling services probably to maintain and upkeep those same products. So let's keep on keeping on here. I think it's cool to see how many countries they already cover, and guys, they are the market leader in charging stations. EVgo is the market leader in fast charging stations. That said, Chargepoint just has an incredible widespread amount of charging stations throughout the world. What's great about them is that of course they integrate with all sorts of cars and they have really fantastic integrations, guys. So let's have a look at some of the investment highlights here. So the first one is the fact that they are actively growing their addressable market. They have great industry leadership, exactly what I was telling you about earlier. They pretty much run the market at this time. They have a winning business model, and I do want to get back here because I think this is very important. Understanding how subscriptions work is gonna make or break your conviction into this stock, so it's really important to drive that home. They have very strong competitive advantages, and I'm gonna allow you guys to sort of have that right to have a look at the presentation and understand some of these things on a more personal level in your own time. But as you guys can see, they have again meaningful scale advantage. They have a fantastic portfolio, and then they're differentiated by strategy. They also have a pretty low capex when you take things into consideration long term. I know that short term that doesn't seem like it, but we're gonna touch base on this again. And then they are also in a fantastic leading capital position because of their initial investments. So let's have a look at that, guys. They are obviously servicing both fleet businesses as well as commercial residential type businesses that just cater to the masses, which I think is probably gonna be the long-term plan here. And then I really want to mention the one thing that I hate about their presentation, and that I'm seeing with some of these smaller companies that are growth oriented. They just freaking focus on COVID a bit too much for my like. I would really like for them to stop doing that. Hopefully they will stop really fast, because I really think they need a mind shift to walk away from just blaming COVID for things. Although, I mean, we all know what's happening, right? Cool. So as you guys can see, it's just incredible how many charging stations they have throughout the world. They are dominating North America, they are dominating Europe, which are 2 of the biggest markets out there, and I think it's really important to drive this home and just look at the numbers here. It's uncanny how many charging stations they actually have. And for a brief overview, again, I just want you guys to have a look at the way they're selling the different services, the different subscription softwares, and then of course the hardware itself. And we're gonna touch base on this in a couple of scrolls here, because that's gonna probably be the most important part of the video. They have an integrated EV ecosystem, which I think is fantastic. They are servicing fleets for some of the biggest companies out there, of course, and they are also integrating with a lot of really awesome consumer and automotive platforms. Guys, this is where the presentation really starts getting really interesting for us. So they service 67% of Fortune 50. That's absolutely fantastic to see and to hear. Of course, some of their 24/7 driver support services are absolutely phenomenal. And then I'm just gonna take a breather here and give you a chance to have a look at some of their customers. Pretty impressive to see, honestly, and I just wonder how a company like this could ever go wrong, which is why I'm a bit confused about what's going on right now in the market and why there aren't more people that are really realizing the opportunity that we have on hand here, especially at 18 bucks a share. What's really interesting to me, guys, is just having a look at how they actually are able to get their top 25 customers to spend more and more and more each quarter after they initially sign up. This is really interesting to see, and it's fantastic to see that they get as much as $70 million from these customers. It's really important to have a strong cohort of customers that drive the business forward, but what's really interesting is still yet to come, guys. So have a look at the way that they are actually making money. You can see that there's a roughly 50% upfront payment for the actual hardware, and then another roughly 50% thereafter in recurring revenue, which I think, honestly, guys, this is actually the very important bit of this business, just that reoccurring revenue. And if we have a look here, guys, at revenue diversity, I think that this is exactly what I want to see from a company that's growth oriented. So just have a look at the way that every single fiscal year that they sell more network charging stations, they basically double down on subscriptions and support the year after, and this is exactly what we want to see. Even if you look at an year-over-year forecast for 2021 Q3 versus 2022 Q3, we can see exactly the same thing. The fact that that 79% growth there is driven a lot by subscription growth and other services growth, and it's really cool to see that they're expanding and are able to drive more revenue from Europe as well, which I think is gonna be a really important part of their business. Now, you guys know that the channel here has a very strong environmental push, guys, so this one slide is really close to my heart. Just looking at the fact that they extracted so many metric tons of greenhouse gas that amounts to roughly 13 million tree seedlings grown for 10 years. That's absolutely fantastic. This really speaks to my heart, and I hope that they can continue. And honestly, this is also one of my reasons to be convicted for a stock like this. I really want them to be successful because I really want to be able to start making a better future for future generations here, guys. This is really important, and we need to wake up to the fact that there's much too much carbon being put out in the atmosphere. Now, there are other really interesting parts of the presentation here, guys, but I don't want to spoil it all. I really want you guys to be able to enjoy some of it. So with that in mind, please have a look at it. The two other things that I really want to touch base on is the fact that their gross margin is expected to grow, which is obvious because, again, they're selling those higher capex hardware initially for 50% of their revenue, and then they expect the other 50% to be made out of recurring subscription fees and then service. So obviously those come at less capex, much less capex, so that's where we can see the fact that the growth is gonna come. And it's really interesting to see the fact that they also forecast that by Q2 fiscal year 2022 they will be profitable. I think that this is one of the turning points in the company's life, and one of the things that the retail investors have really been looking for, just the moment that they become profitable. Obviously, all of us want them to invest in growth and making sure that they can get as much capital as they can, but there comes a point where we need to see the proof of concept and we need to see the profitability. And I'm really excited to see how the stock is gonna be performing once they start showing a positive bottom line. I'm gonna keep it brief, guys. That pretty much covers it. I really encourage you to go in here and have a look at some of the numbers, have a look at the financial statements. They're always very, very important. They help build out conviction, and conviction is so important whenever we are looking at staying strong through periods of FUD and fear, and just doubling down, averaging in, and also making sure that we're not buying into a shit stock, guys. This is again very important. Don't just average in blindly in stocks that are sort of within the range, that are promoted by YouTubers and whatnot. Do your own due diligence, ask questions from either YouTubers or other random people or your friends if they are knowledgeable, just to be able to get a bit more knowledge yourself. And yeah, guys, if you have any questions, I'll be around. Don't forget about the portfolio that we're building out. I encourage you to look at that. I'm gonna start featuring it on the 1st of January, guys. It's gonna be a portfolio between 3 and 5 grand roughly, depending on how the last few days of December go. We're gonna attempt to beat the markets next year and just see how far it's gonna go. It's gonna be a road to glory kind of thing. I really want you guys to see that you can do it as well. And obviously I'm gonna start a Patreon page as well, where you can just for $5 track my process, be alerted whenever I make a trade, and just be able to grow your portfolios alongside mine. That's it for the day, guys. Catch you next time. Take care.